Hello, everybody. Terrence Lakeview here with another episode of the Intellectual Agrarian Podcast, where we talk philosophy from the farm. Now, before we get into today's new and exciting topic, I have just one little thing to share with you from my Christmas list. If you listening today would be so kind as to leave us a rating or review in iTunes or your podcast player of choice, we would be extremely grateful. Not to mention, it would help Santa out. He's got a lot of stuff to do this time of year, and I don't think the North Pole gets very good internet anyway. So if you could do that, we'd be extremely grateful. Now, on to today's episode. Today we're doing a little bit of a different format. We're experimenting with what we call reporting, telling you a little bit about an event or occasion that we visited, and giving you our thoughts and quick little review on it. So today we're discussing the Acres USA Conference in 2018 held in Louisville, Kentucky. The Acres USA Conference is a great event put on by the Acres USA magazine and brings across farmers from around the nation and across the globe. This year was the very first time that I'd been to Kentucky, and I was surprised to find that the city of Louisville has a very proud heritage of alcoholism. The catchphrase that I saw pretty much on most of the stuff I could purchase from the city said, "Got bourbon," which, since I'm from Wisconsin, I found more than mildly amusing. The conference was incredible. Admittedly, last year the Acres Conference seemed to have a bit of an air of depression about it. At the time, the National Organic Program had just allowed hydroponics. The Organic Livestock and Poultry Practices rule had been postponed, hinting at its eventual cancellation. This year, though, there was a greater air of encouragement, an upbeat attitude for both myself and the conference at large. The keynotes were Elliot Coleman, Joel Salatin, and Daniela Ibarra Howell. Each shared the role of regenerative and sustainable agriculture in the world today. It was also an exciting opportunity to get to meet with folks that I had had on the show, including Noah Sanders from Aurora Valley Farms, who I just happened to bump into at the conference. And I also got to meet with some other farmers and agrarians that I've actually been emailing with about being on the show or talking with them about their experiences. Beyond just the educational opportunities that a conference like this presents, the ability to get to meet with other members of the community was great. I'd like to share with you some notes from my favorite sessions, but I want you to be aware that my recollections and thoughts cannot give the presenters or their topics due justice. If you can, be sure to check out the Acres website where copies of the conference sessions are available. I'll link to that in the show notes. One of my favorite sessions was by Dr. Nasha Winters on restoring our rhythm, strategies for thriving in modern times. Principally, she discussed on how getting our circadian rhythm back into natural sync can be the first step of preventing diseases and increasing health and productivity. Personally, I really enjoyed the session because it introduced me to a new field of study called chronobiology. And I even got a copy of her book, The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. I'm really excited to read it. Another great session was Joel Salatin's keynote address, asking the question, can we feed the world? Obviously, feeding the world, a grandiose ambition that's been lauded by large-scale industrial agriculture for years, has been popularized but never accomplished. Truly, there was never a time when America, quote-unquote, has fed the world. But that's not the track Joel took in his keynote. Instead, he focused on the statement many farmers had put to him. If everyone farmed your way, the world would starve. So, Joel broke down the history of how we got where we did in agriculture, and then took an honest examination of the question. The reality is there's an abundance of land in this world that remains unused and uncultivated, from which food could be grown, but isn't. Additionally, if each person with a lawn was to start their own garden, do you realize how much food could be produced? There is 36 million acres in lawn in the United States alone. He reminded us that everyone could farm ecologically and not merely survive, but thrive. Food would be different, but not scarce. It would, in reality, decentralize a food system and make it locally oriented, when at the moment, our food system is focused on centralization and internationalism. A wildcard session I enjoyed was Mark Shepard teaching about water management, a tease for the upcoming book he's releasing. It was interesting and thought-provoking, partly because until recently I haven't given as much credit or due weight to the idea of water management. Water is an extremely valuable resource and can become incredibly scarce without the proper management. Reinforcing the idea in my head on my way to Tennessee to visit friends, I was amazed to see how much property in mountains and little hills have runoff and erosion. Overall, I enjoyed my little trip down south. It was as educational and fun as I had hoped. I have added more books to my reading pile. Some of them I even got signed copies. It's easy to forget that learning doesn't stop when we leave our seats in the conference room. It follows us as we try to implement what we've learned and adjust our conceptions of the ideas that we learned to the realities of our individual situations. As I said earlier, I can't do the sessions justice in describing them. If you can, be sure to check out the ACRES Conference website. Again, that will be linked in the show notes. Thanks again for listening. This has been Terrence Lehue and the Intellectual Agrarian Podcast, reminding you to keep farming the dream.